Hi everyone, my name is Misty. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, I'm finally going to sit down and share my journey with myasthenia gravis. If you've been with me from the beginning, you kind of went along this journey with me, but several people have reached out and asked if I have a standalone video talking about my symptoms and my treatment, how I got diagnosed, etc. And I haven't done that yet. So I figured it's been 4 years since I've been diagnosed, and I'm filming this on the 6th of June. Yes. So June is a pretty significant month in this journey. So I thought, you know what, let's just go ahead and do it. We'll lay it all out. I got a pretty insensitive comment today. That's kind of another thing that's kind of pushed this to the forefront. I've put on a full face of makeup, so hopefully I won't cry. We'll see how it goes. But before we get started, just a reminder, I'm not a health professional. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor, anything like that. This is just my journey and how I've handled it, from symptoms to getting diagnosed to living with the disease for the past 4 years. So let's start with what it is. Now, this is going to be a very simple Cliff's Note version of what myasthenia gravis is, but I'm going to leave you some links in the description box down below that will take you to some really good articles. You can also, search on the Mayo Clinic. It'll pull up some really great articles. I would stay away from WebMD, even though it does kind of explain it somewhat. But yeah, so I'm guessing that if you've stumbled upon this video or you've searched this out, you either are someone with myasthenia, you know someone with myasthenia, or you've been told that you possibly do have myasthenia. So just take a deep breath. It'll be okay. Myasthenia gravis is referred to as a snowflake disease because no two people have the same exact symptoms. It's a very rare disease. Only it's between 30 and 67,000 of us that have actually been diagnosed with myasthenia. So there's a small community in the grand scheme of things. So myasthenia gravis literally means muscle weakness. And it is what's called a neuromuscular junction disorder. So our nerves talk to our muscles and tell them when to contract, when to work. When you have myasthenia gravis, it's an autoimmune disease. So your body is basically attacking where the nerve talks to the muscle. So that junction where they talk is where your body basically breaks it down. So your nerves can't tell your muscles when to contract. So your muscles don't move like they're supposed to, and which causes muscle weakness. Some people have what's called ocular symptoms, meaning it's mostly in their eyes and in their face. And then the rest of us have it or can have it in our extremities, etc. It is hard to get diagnosed, and I'll talk about all the steps I went through, because a lot of people have an antibody, but a lot of people don't have an antibody. A lot of people have, I think it's the thymus, I can never remember the right gland, but a lot of people can have that removed after a CT scan, and then they're perfectly fine. And then some of us live with the disease their entire life. There's no cure. It can be manageable. It can be terrifying, but it can also be something that you can really learn to live with. So my journey starts in October of 2016. My husband and I had just returned from a 2-week vacation in New England. I had been home about a week. I took 3 weeks off. He had gone back to work. And so I remember getting up one morning, and the two of us were in the process of getting dressed and going to work. And I can remember sitting on the bed, and I'm like, something's not right. And I have a disease called OPLL. At the time, it was undiagnosed, but that means the ossification of the posterior longitudinal ligaments along with stenosis. So basically, the ligaments that run north and south in my spinal canal are calcifying, and they're putting pressure on the spinal cord, which causes nerve pain. And it was undiagnosed at the time, but I've always had issues with kind of like nerve pain in my arms. So if you're unfamiliar, nerve pain a lot of times is a sharp, shooting, burning sensation. I can remember waking up in the middle of the night with my arm feeling like it was literally on fire or in a fire. So I was no stranger to having issues with my arms, being wonky, but this was so different. And that's what I told my husband, Rob. I said, something's not right. I was like, I don't know if I need an adjustment or what. I said, but something's not right. It literally happened overnight. The day before, I was fine. The next morning, I wasn't fine. So he said, are you going to go to the doctor? I said, I'll give it a couple weeks and we'll see. And when I tell you, the weakness was so bad, it's still so bad. It's completely hard to explain. For a while I was trying to explain it as, imagine moving in like 115-degree heat and you've carried 50-pound boxes up and down stairs for 16 hours. It's that level of weakness. It's to the point where I wasn't able to hold up my toothbrush to brush my teeth. That took so much effort. Getting dressed, trying to take a shower. I mean, all of these things were taking so much effort and I had no clue what was going on. So I went to my regular doctor and he immediately thought Guillain-Barré or Myasthenia Gravis because he's like, there's not a whole lot of diseases that make you have that where you can't brush your teeth, you can't feed yourself kind of thing. Unfortunately, it didn't show up in my blood. I still don't have the antibodies. So he was like, you need to get your diabetes under control. This is just neuropathy. And I told my husband, I said, this is not neuropathy. I said, this is not neuropathy. This is not nerve pain. Like I said, I've been living with nerve pain. I said, that's not what this is. I said, but we'll see what happened. So that was in probably the 1st of November by the time I'd gone and seen the doctor. And by Christmas, things had gotten so much worse. I can remember trying to cook Christmas dinner and my husband had, I was trying to peel a potato and just this motion took so much out of me. Trying to hold a potato, like a small little red potato, felt like it weighed 15 pounds. So my husband is the one that had to eventually, slice them, peel them, slice them. During that dinner, he had to cut up my meat for me. I was struggling so much. So a few weeks later, I started having issues with what I thought was kidneys. I thought I had a kidney infection. And my doctor, ironically, was out of the office because he was having cervical, a neck surgery. So I saw his partner and she's like, I'm pretty sure you have a pinched nerve. She's like, I don't think this is nerve pain. Kidney infection. She said, I'm pretty sure, I think you have, a pinched nerve. She's like, I'm sending you to an MRI. I'm going to start you on gabapentin, which is a seizure medication. And then, or Grillis. I was on one of the two. And then I'm going to send you to a pain management doctor. And I said, okay. So I went and had the MRI and then, I was taking the seizure medication and then I went to see the pain management doctor at the 1st of March. Well, leading up to that appointment, I missed probably 4 days of work because I literally could barely get out of bed. There was no way that I could take a shower. And at this point, I'd already chopped up all of my hair. My hair was down to the middle of my back. I cut it into a pixie because I remember standing in the shower the day we went back to work after Christmas vacation and not being able to hold up my arms long enough to wash my hair. So, and I keep it short now. This is the longest it's been in a hot minute. And I probably will end up cutting it off because it's just so hard to take care of. So I'd been off of work and I'd gone to this appointment. And by the time I walked in, I was basically almost in tears because driving was taking a toll on me. Trying to hold onto the steering wheel, braking, using the accelerator. I was having so much weakness in my arms and in my legs. It was just completely defeating. So I go see the pain management doctor, who is basically just an anesthesiologist. But I see the nurse practitioner or physician's assistant. I don't know which one. She's like, I'm gonna go get the doctor. She's like, because I think there's something else at play. So he comes in, he examines me, he looks at the MRI. He's like, there's something else going on. He's like, what you're describing is not what we're seeing on the MRI. So we're gonna refer you to a neurologist. So I had my first of four neurology appointments in March. It was at like the first week of March. And they also ordered aquatic physical therapy. So went to see the neurologist, and it was an awful appointment. They did a nerve conduction, or he did a nerve conduction study. Didn't tell me what he was doing. He was just poking me with needles. From beginning to end, that appointment was 10 minutes long. He said, I'll have your results in 6 weeks. And I was just like, okay, whatever. So had that appointment, then went to physical therapy. And the first day I called my husband bawling my eyes out, because getting undressed into a bathing suit, into the pool, doing the pool exercises, getting back out of the pool, and then having to dry off myself and put my clothes back on, it took me 45 minutes to get redressed, to go home. And I called my husband. I was like, I can't do this. I said, I can't cook. I was like, we're gonna have to grab something to eat. I was trying to do keto at this time. Like, I'd started keto in March, and I just didn't know what was happening. I was trying to work. I wasn't being able, like, I would literally walk from the parking lot into my office, and I would have to sit there for probably 2 to 3 hours before I felt like I had enough energy to walk from my desk 20 feet to the bathroom. And it would like rinse and repeat. I wasn't able to do my job the way I should have been. And I was really starting to struggle mentally as well. This was also the time, like, I'd started this channel and I was doing keto, and I kept getting comments that I was a hypochondriac. I'm just a fat fuck who doesn't want to get off her ass and do any work. And I still get those kind of comments today. And I'm like, oh, if you only got to experience what I get to experience. So anyway, after this, I called my doctor and was like, can you help me figure, like, I want to see, no, okay, wait a minute. Okay, I lost my timeline. So I'm going to physical therapy, and I end up doing 3 times, and then I called back in and said, I can't do this anymore. I said, this is making things worse. I absolutely cannot do this. So I have an appointment, I think it was the 30th of March, with the pain management doctor, and I saw another physician's assistant. This is why I no longer go to that pain management doctor, because it was like herding cattle. And I said, did you guys get the results of the from the neurologist? She's like, yeah. She's like, it didn't say anything. And I was like, okay. And I told her how, I wasn't going back to physical therapy because I felt like physical therapy was making it worse, blah, blah, blah. So I get home, and around 5:15, 5:30, my phone rings, and I look down. I'm like, oh, I think I recognize this number. It was the pain management doctor's office, and it was the assistant that I saw that day. And she's like, hi, my name is, I think her name was Precious. I don't remember. And she said, I didn't realize there was a second page to the report from the neurologist. And these were her exact words, y'all. I will be on my deathbed, and I will be able to repeat what she said to me. She said, now, I don't want you to Google this. She said, but you have a neuromuscular junction disorder. And she said, you need to think like muscular dystrophy, ALS. And I'm just like stupefied, because I'm 43 years old. I grew up watching Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon. I knew what those diseases were, especially ALS. ALS, you don't survive. 2 to 5 years, and it's a horrible, painful, slow deterioration, and you die. And I was, number one, astounded that I got this information over the phone after hours. And number 2, I was just like, you literally called me and told me that I may be dying, and you're just happy-go-lucky. And she hung up the phone on me. And my husband got home not long after that, and I just broke down and I was sobbing. I was absolutely sobbing. And I went into work the next day and said, okay, this is what may be going on. I called and made an appointment with my doctor, and he's like, I said, this is what's going on. I said, I've had this testing, and this testing. And I said, we've got to figure this out. I said, because I can't take it anymore. And as we've gone along, my symptoms have just gotten worse. And I was having issues, like I said, bathing, dressing, cooking. Like, it was such a struggle. I wasn't able to walk up and down the hallway at work. Like, it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So the next stop was a new neurologist. My doctor said, I don't like the neurologist they sent you to. I wish you would have called me. I would have sent you somewhere else. And I was like, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. So I see a new neurologist, and he's like, I've gotten the report from the other neurologist. He's like, I don't see where he actually did a study. And I told him, I was like, well, my appointment beginning to end was 10 minutes. And he apparently did that study. And he's like, no, I'm going to send you to Baylor Sports. He said, there's a doctor there who does nerve conduction studies all the time on athletes. So we're going to send you there. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I get on YouTube because I'm like, what the hell is a nerve conduction study? And what do I have to look forward to? And I found this one video, and this guy's just laying there, and the lady inserts the little thing, and he's just laying there. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. No big deal. Bullshit. If you haven't had a nerve conduction study yet, it's painful. And it's painful. Don't drive yourself. See if you have someone that can come with you. Take, Tylenol, ibuprofen, a pain reliever before you go. It's painful. And it was two 2-hour sessions because he wanted my top half done and he wanted my lower half done. So essentially a nerve conduction study is where they insert a needle into your muscle and then they zap it to see if the muscle is moving. I don't know exactly. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. There's some science behind it. I don't know, but it is absolutely painful. And then the last one they did was right here, and they zapped me 10 zaps and 10 reps. So 100 zaps right here. And by the time they were done, I was in tears. And the doctor's like, maybe we can do your lower half today. Let me go check my schedule. And I was just like, oh my God, I'd rather just get it over with. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't. Can you come back the next day? So the next day I get my husband to take the day off and we go back and he does my lower half, and it's even more painful than the top half. So I don't mean to scare you, but nerve conduction studies are painful. So be aware, make sure, like I said, talk to your doctor or talk to the doctor that's going to do the study. Ask them if, you can take a pain reliever ahead of time. My doctor said, or the doctor doing it said I could. He said it won't mess with the information. So I did that. And I go see the, I think this was in early April, and it was like 3 days before my birthday when I went and saw the neurologist again, and he's like, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And I was like, I'm not fine. I'm not fine. I'm like, that's not true. So I go back to my regular doctor and I said, what's next? And he said, let's try rheumatologist. And I said, okay. And I said, what are we going to do if, the rheumatologist doesn't know? He's like, well, I'm sending you to UT Southwestern, which is University of Texas Medical School. And he said, if they can't figure you out, we'll go to the Mayo Clinic. And I said, okay, fine. So I go see a rheumatologist. Nothing shows up, even though this is an autoimmune disease, nothing shows up. And she basically told my doctor that I was just fat and wanted to stay home from work, which is not true at all. So this is the 1st of May. And then by the end of May, my husband and I were talking, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, I'm going to have to leave my job. I said, they can't figure me out. I'd been to 4 or 5 doctors at this point, and I was getting weaker by the day. And I literally didn't know if I was going to survive or if I was going to be able to walk by October. So on June 3rd, I met with my dean because I worked at a college, and I submitted my resignation. Because of the unknown. I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's happening. That same day, so the week before, 2 weeks before, my husband got a postcard in the mail about Second MD. So Second MD is an app where you can get second opinions from experts in the field. So I submitted all of my paperwork. They called me back and they scheduled an appointment with a neurologist from Columbia University. She got all my paperwork. She's reading it and she's like, I don't understand. She's like, it doesn't look like anything's showing up. She's like, but your symptoms sound like a classic case of myasthenia gravis. And I said, well, what can I do? And she said, you need to go find a neurologist that subspecializes in neuromuscular junction disorders. She said, you need to have a single fiber nerve conduction study done. And she said, and if you can't find someone, call me back and I'll see if I can find somebody in your area. And I said, okay. So I went to my doctor and I said, okay, it's like I've had a second opinion from a doctor at Columbia. And she says, I need to do these 2 things. So I end up back at UT Southwestern with a neurologist who is currently my neurologist now. So we go into this appointment and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to do testing and then I'm going to find out what's wrong with me. No, that's not the case. But I knew immediately when she did this nerve conduction study that she found something, because she literally went, oh, it's like, oh my word. So she said, she's like, I don't have time to decipher the results today. She said, but I want you to go back to your regular doctor and ask him if he will prescribe Mestinon. Mestinon, also known as pyridostigmine, is one of the only, I think there's only 2 drugs available for us with myasthenia that helps control the symptoms. And she said, if it controls the symptoms, like if you feel a difference, she said it's myasthenia. She's like, if you don't, it could be Lambert-Eaton. Now, Lambert-Eaton is it's also a very similar disease, but it's also small cell lung cancer. So I was like, holy crap. So I'm sitting in the lab area at the Ashton building at UT Southwestern, bawling my eyes out. People are looking at me and I'm like, oh my God, like I either have cancer or I have this disease. And I've been praying the whole entire time. I was like, please, I will take a disease as long as it's something that I can at least control with medicine. Like that had been my prayer the whole entire time. So I go back to my regular doctor. He prescribed the Mestinon, and within 2 days, my symptoms had lessened. Now they've never gone away. And I still deal with it every single day, but I got a little bit of relief. And then I met with that neurologist again, and that's when I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. And that was mid-August. No, mid-July, because I'd seen her in June, and then I was able to see her again in July. And I had told her that I had already submitted my resignation, and my last day at my job, I think, was in August or either the 1st of September. I honestly can't remember. And she said, once you're done with your job, I want to start you on immune suppression therapy. And I said, okay. So by this point, I'd been on keto since March. I'd gotten off insulin. I was diet controlled. I was doing very, very well. And then I started mycophenolate. So mycophenolate is also known as Cellcept, and it's an immune suppression therapy. It's the main one that they use for people who have transplants. It's basically a transplant rejection drug. So it takes about 3 or 4 months or 5 months for you to see any kind of lessening of symptoms with this particular drug. So in February of 2018, I started having issues with blood sugar. Come to find out, it was the Cellcept. So I switched to azathioprine. I was on azathioprine up until this past month, where I'm doing infusions for my RA. So that's another thing that you need to know. Once you've developed one autoimmune disease, you're prone to develop more than one. So in February 2019, I felt like I had developed rheumatoid arthritis, like I had all of the symptoms, and I was diagnosed with that in August of 2019. And then October of 2019, I had back surgery. So one of the things to know about myasthenia is that you can have what's called a crisis, and it's basically where you stop breathing. The muscles in your lungs don't work and you stop breathing, and you have about 5 minutes to make it to a hospital. It also makes it hard on you if you develop pneumonia, you get the flu, or if you have to go under anesthesia. So I was having a routine back surgery, but I was terrified of going under anesthesia. I was scared I wasn't going to wake up. Luckily I did. I talked to my neurologist probably every 3 to 4 months. I'm still on Mestinon, but now we're considering moving to Ivig. So I have been taking the, what's it called? Immune suppression therapy since September of 2017. So we're on year 3 of immune suppression therapy. And now I'm on, no, year 4 of immune suppression therapy. And since I've stopped that, the next option is called Ivig, and it's basically where your body's injected with antibodies. They take blood from other people, they purify it, pull out the antibodies, and then it's given to you via IV. So I am currently taking an immune suppression therapy for my rheumatoid arthritis through IV. And if it comes down to where it's controlling those symptoms, but it's not controlling the myasthenia symptoms, then I'll move on to that. So that's kind of where I am with it all. I really struggle with it. Some of the things that I've had to do in my real life is like, I don't shower every day. I shower every other day. That's also something that my doctor wanted me to do, because my back, it took, 6 months? 6 or 7 months for my wound to heal on my back, my scar from my surgery. And they were like every other day. So now it's basically already doing every other day. I keep my hair very short, because I just can't hold my arms up long enough to style it. Today I have makeup on, but I have nothing else planned today, so I can put some makeup on. And the issue is, some days I wake up and I feel like I have a ton of energy and I get a ton done, and then the next day I feel like I can't do anything. I've had to stop driving. I can drive 5 miles is really, really pushing it for me. It's really hard for me to hold my arms up, to hold the steering wheel. It's exceptionally hard for me to be able to brake or hold down the accelerator. So I stay within like 2 or 3 miles of our house as far as driving goes. What else? Sometimes my husband has to cut up my food, and that can be an issue. I use what's called a rollator. It's basically a walker with a seat. So when I could go in the grocery store, I would be able to have a seat so I could sit down, because most of my myasthenia is in my extremities. It also messes with my vision. I do have a myasthenia eye. It's kind of hard to see with all this makeup on, but I do have some eye droopage. I do deal with double vision. By the end of the day, like even today though, let me pull this up. I read on my phone, I read a Kindle app, and you can see just how big I have my font today. Sometimes by 3, 4 o'clock, I can't read anything because my eyes are so tired and so heavy. It's causing a lazy eye in my right eye. When I went to the physical therapist I had vertigo, she was like, your right eye is getting kind of lazy. We can fix that, but with your myasthenia, it may get worse. What else? I mean, that's really about it. When she called to tell me that I may have ALS, she's like, you're absolutely right. Physical therapy is making things worse because it's causing your muscles to be really tired. And it's a hard adjustment. It's a hard adjustment. And I think what's hardest is that people look at me and they see a fat person, but they don't know past that. Like, the very first time I went in public, I had to use, we went grocery shopping, I had to use a scooter, and I had so much anxiety about that. And even driving a scooter was hard on my arms. It was very, it was a lot of vibration. It was a lot of trying to squeeze, a lot of moving around. And so it's like some days I have really good days where I feel like I'm fine, and there are some days where I literally cannot manage to do anything. And my husband will ask me, do you think you're going to take a shower in the morning? I was like, I'll have to let you know in the morning. So it's hard, and it's hard on everything. It's hard on us. My husband has turned into more of a caretaker because I need help getting dressed, and he has to be the one, especially during COVID, because when you're on some, I've been on immune suppression therapy. I have 2 autoimmune diseases. So it wasn't like I was, I could really go out because of the pandemic. So it can be, like I said, it can be cured. Some people are lucky enough that they have something removed, they're cured, and they go on and live their life. Some people, they have the antibodies that show up in the blood work. Some people, we just don't. We just have the symptoms. So if you're someone who is struggling to get diagnosed, I would really suggest, like, you see someone, that specializes in neuromuscular junction disorders, talk to about a single fiber nerve conduction study if you've already had a regular nerve conduction study. It took me October to July to get diagnosed, but I'm also, like, I stayed on top of my doctors. When I got an answer, I was like, I don't accept that. There's something wrong. Who do we see next? So you have to really advocate for yourself, have, a member of your family advocate for you, have somebody with you. There are support groups. If you go on the Myasthenia Gravis of America website, they have local meetings. I can't drive very well, so I haven't gone to any of the local. I did join a couple of Facebook groups and I had to leave because there are varying degrees of this disease, and some people have it where, like, they're in crisis all the time. They're always at the hospital. Some people barely have any symptoms, but reading people, like, I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. Not only am I an empath, but, like, living with the same disease. And I told my husband, I'm like, what if that happens? Because this can be a progressive disease. There's no cure for this disease as of right now. You can do the best you can to medicate, etc., but it's not a perfect solution for anybody. So when people leave me comments about how I should just exercise or how I could do, the bare minimum physical therapy, it's all I can do to live my life. It's all I can do and wake up and take a shower, or wake up and get dressed, or wake up and brush my teeth. Or there's been a couple of times we've been out to eat and my husband has had to cut up my meat for me or feed me. Like, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And it's doubly hard because I don't look like I have a disease that causes muscle weakness. I'm a fat person and people just see me as a fat person, and that's it, when there's so much more going on. So, like I said, I don't mean to scare you. This has just been my journey. You may have it easy. You may not have it easy. I wouldn't take no for an answer if it's from the blood work, but you seem to have every other symptom of it. Keep pushing. And I know that I'm very blessed and privileged that I had insurance that allowed me to do all this. And I know not everybody does. So yeah, that's all I can offer you, is just to reach out and, see if you can get some help. Look for doctors in your area. I follow a couple of doctors on Instagram. I'll try to leave one of their handles down below. He gives really great information on Instagram. He's not active all the time, but when he is, he gives really good information. I was going to see about contacting his clinic, but he posted about how they're full up. You can't get in to see him at all. So I didn't do that. I've considered the Mayo Clinic, but again, that takes traveling. You have to qualify to go. So it's not easy. And I just want you to know that I understand. And if you have questions or if you need someone to talk to, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you are someone who has left me comments about exercising and all these other things, I implore you to just listen to everything that I've talked about. There's a video, I don't remember which video it is, from 2017 where I'm literally crying and just grateful because you take for granted what your body can do. Like I took for granted that I could walk from my car into my office and walk from my office down the hallway and walk from the hallway back down to my office. And that was basically impossible before I started getting treatment. And treatment has helped, but it hasn't, like I said, there's no cure. So I will live with this disease for the rest of my life. I also have rheumatoid arthritis, which is, my joints are failing. So not only are my muscles and my nerves not working correctly, my joints aren't working correctly, then I have this disease in my back that's causing my spinal canal, my spinal cord to be compressed. And my neurosurgeon has basically said, by the time I'm paralyzed is when we'll do it, so there's more to me than just being a fat person. And, when you leave those kind of comments, it's maddening. It's maddening. And it's unhelpful, and it's not, it's like you're not informed about what's going on with my life. And until you experience it, until you have that sensation where, holding a toothbrush is just way too much work, you'll never be able to understand it. And that's okay. That's okay. But I just want you, if you're someone who leaves me those kinds of comments, I just want you to really think about what you're saying and listen to everything that I just said and all of the issues that I deal with on a daily basis. My husband and I are trying to plan a vacation, and it's like, we can't set anything in stone other than where we're going to stay, because I don't know how I'm going to feel that day. So, everything that you take for granted as far as mobility, I wish I could do what I used to do. I wish I could be more active. I wish, it wasn't disappointing to friends when I say I need a couple of days of a heads up, so I can plan. If I know that I have something big coming up, 2 days leading up to that, I will just rest. I will just try to conserve as much muscles, and my muscle, strength as I can. Mine, I start in the morning kind of basically weak, and then I get weaker as the day goes on. That's another thing about Lambert-Eaton. It's the opposite. You start really, really weak and you get stronger as the day goes on. But mine is it's the opposite. When I wake up, that's the strength I'm going to have for the day. So that tells me, number one, can I take a shower? Can I brush my teeth? Am I going to be able to cook for us that day? Like, what am I going to be able to do? It's every single morning. So you just can't take that for granted. And I hate that I did, when now, just a simple trip to the store is basically, do I need a wheelchair? Can I use a scooter? Am I going to need to take my walker? Can I, are you going to have to help me get dressed? Am I going to have to wear a pain patch? Do I need to stop my Mastodon? Because Mastodon causes digestive issues. And it's like, when you got to go, you got to go. And it's like, do I need to stop that? Do I need to take extra Imodium that day? I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, yeah. Like I said, I don't mean to scare you. A lot of people can be diagnosed and be cured, and they live long, happy, healthy lives. Every one of us is different. I just tread carefully if you join a Facebook group. There are groups, in the bigger cities. So I know there's one in Dallas for sure. So yeah, so that's my journey from diagnosis to from symptoms to diagnosis, from being able to work outside the home to being completely disabled, leaving my job, which is a whole other slew of problems. I really encourage you to get a therapist, and if you can. I know therapy is expensive. Not everybody has health insurance, but you basically grieve. Like, I went through the grieving process because I was grieving the life I had. I was grieving the life that we had planned. I was grieving the present life that I had. And, there are days where I wake up and I'm like, I wish I could just go back and, just take advantage of everything that I could have done. You know what I mean? So it's hard, but you can do it. I promise. So yeah, so seek out a neurologist. Just make sure that you're advocating for yourself. Don't give up. Keep pushing if you can. Seek out therapy, seek out support, whatever you need to do. And if you have any questions, or if you have someone in your life that has myasthenia and you want to share their story, I would love to see those in the comments down below. You're not alone, and I appreciate you, and I hope you're doing well, and I wish you well on your journey. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.